So weird.
Stone crab.
We have a new sound. There we go. If you're noticing little whirlpools in the water, there are pipes, as I said, that go underneath the road, and the slow movement of the river is causing these little whirlpools. They look kind of natural and cool, but that's due to the man-made canals here. That is the weirdest thing right here. Okay, so this canal was put in before this became a national park. It was put in the 1930s by a company out of Texas named Humboldt Oil. Whole reason for the first road in was oil exploration. When I first started working here, I'm like, why would anyone come to the middle of the Everglades to look for oil? Very interesting. They did their research. During the time of Pangea, when we were one, there's the gator. When we were one supercontinent, Florida broke off of an oil-rich section of Africa, floated over here. They were correct. 2 major drill sites. One will be indicated by a wooden bench closer to the visitor center. Second one was the tower. Fortunate for us, there's that whirlpool, and this great blue is always here posing, just so you know. I don't know, every tour.
You gotta make that money.
And this is a makeup, a gator with makeup, you said, Ricky? That's how they hunt. So patient. See that little black crest on his head? That's a male, and the little pink on the side of the wing. People think that's an injury, but that's part of the mating plumage. That little pink, it looks kind of like blood, but it's not. And then it doesn't look like the chest feathers have started yet, but usually they do. This is coming to nesting season now. As all the people that come to visit Florida at the right time in the winter when it gets freezing up north, so do a lot of birds. We have more than 360 species. They don't just come through here, they nest here a year.
Do you just come here for the photos, or because it doesn't even look like you're fishing at all? There's some big fish right over there. Cute.
Yeah,
Bird.
good
That's
hint.
so funny.
Look, it is posing like down out. I mean, honestly.
He's been in that spot like for every tour for the past couple months. Does not care about the tram.
Doesn't care about eating, I guess.
Just hoping it's a croc. A little
Yeah,
croc.
because it was like sitting on top, not in the water.
No croc.
What?
No shortage of alligators to feed. Alligators have 3 sets of eyelids. They have one set that closes vertically. It's like their goggles, so that they can swim underwater without injuring their eyes. And then one that closes from the top to the bottom, bottom to top. I'll tell you something really cool about alligators. That you want to see a cool picture? Google alligator heads frozen in water. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, the water freezes. Alligators store food in the base of their tail throughout their body. When they are in freezing water and they suspect it's going to freeze, they'll come up to the surface of the water, put out their eyes, put out their nose, and go into that state of rumination, lower their metabolism down to 3 heartbeats a minute, and let the ice freeze around them. They will stay frozen in ice until the water thaws out. If they stored enough food, they'll break up out of the state of rumination when the ice melts and just swim off. Kind of wondering how they survived the last ice age. It's amazing. So unfortunately for Humboldt Oil, they drilled about 12,000 feet into limestone and found substandard oil. There was too much marl, too much sulfur, too much lime in it, and it was too costly to refine for a profit at the time. Great. We gained 10,000 acres because they donated this land back to the federal government for tax credits. In 1966, there was something in the national parks that was called Mission 66. And any parks that had pre-existing man-made features were putting in grants. We won that grant, and that's where they finished the other part of the road and built the observation tower. So it's really surreal that we're able to ride around a tram in a slough. There's 3 sloughs in the national park. The only way to get to the other 2 would be kayak or canoe. But don't say you're sorry for Humboldt Oil. You probably visited them this week, probably gave them some of your money, now known as a little corporation called ExxonMobil. So they know what they're doing. They're still drilling actually for oil in Big Cypress. That's why they needed a preserve, because I guess it was less limestone and they still are pulling oil out of the ground there. But I'll show you something really visual and something that will show you how any interference by humans could have a huge impact on an ecosystem. If you look to your left, you'll see these plants in the canal. They're called spatterdocks. They look like lily pads. Because this canal is deep, and because it attaches the canal on Highway 41 and to another 2,000 miles of canal throughout Miami, South Florida, the Upper Keys, it acquired nutrients. They look comfy, right? They got the coolness of the water, the heat of the sun. If you look in the canal, there's a invasive species, the balloons. If you look in the canal, you will not see 1 ounce of parasite because the high nutrient level destroyed all the paraphyton. If you look to the right, you see the sawgrass, you see the paraphyton, but you will not see 1 spatterdock. That's an indication of high nutrient. Now, if you see a break, now the only reason those trees are here, when Humboldt Oil came through here, oh, that was an Anhinga. See, I think there's a nest up closer. We'll see if we can find that. When they dug this canal, they kicked up extra limestone, which acquired soil, which made all these trees unnaturally growing in this area. If you see a break in the trees, you will see the general look of the natural environment back again. There has been discussion about filling these burrow pits, but it's been here since the 30s. And this is where the larger aquatic species, such as the big turtles, big fish, garfish, and alligators go in the dry season. So if we filled it in, they would be in for shock and they would have nowhere to go. So it is determined that it's here to stay. Is that shoes squeaking? Are your shoes squeaking? Or is that a kill there? So I'll tell you about our name, Short River Valley Slough. We already know it's a slough, shallow sheet of slow-moving water within this river. We already know it's a river charged by rainwater, moves about 15 miles, a quarter mile a day. Now there are 4 rivers that leave Everglades National Park that will distribute all the water from the slough into the ocean at about 60 miles from here. But I'll tell you the valley part first. If you drive about 60 miles to your east, you will hit a limestone ridge that rises up about 18 to 20 feet and runs about 1,000 miles up the coast of Florida. It's called the Atlantic Coastal Ridge. If you drive about 60 miles to your west, you'll hit a similar ridge. Rises up about 18 feet above sea level, and it's called the Immokalee Rise. From ridge to ridge, we are in a low, shallow valley. We're also on a slow decline from here to the end of the park, so we get a lot of water in here to deal with. Now, the short part. So as I said, if you drive to the Ernest Cove Visitor Center, which is 60 miles from here, it takes about an hour to get to the other entrances of the park. An hour to get to the Gulf Coast West, and an hour to get to Ernest Cove South. If you are going west, check with the rangers before you do, because there was flooding and a lot of that in Everglades City may be closed. I don't want you to drive an hour out of your way to see that part of the park. Mostly you get in a boat there, it's a concession like ours, and they'll take you into the bay and you'll see dolphins. I saw eagles there last year this time nesting, and I did see also a huge flock of white pelicans, just amazing. But check with the rangers before you drive west. I know for sure that the south part of the park is open, and that part of the park is open to cars 24/7. If you go in there at 8 o'clock at night, you can drive around the park, you can hike those trails at night, and let me tell you, if anyone is interested in stars, this is a super... Did you see stars last night? Okay, Ricky came out riding his bike last night. This is an amazing star park. I had friends that came in here an hour or two after sunset and saw the Milky Way galaxy. If you go down to the south part of the park and walk some of those trails, it is equally as dark. So really cool. Also, if you want to see pythons, they're nocturnal. They are also ectothermic. They love to come out on the road in the middle of the night. See any pythons last night? No, not out here. What? Oh, cool. Yeah, the gators are also nocturnal, so they're very active at night. So at the southernmost part of the park, there is another ecosystem. It is called the estuary. If you go down by the ocean in Flamingo, you'll see these huge trees growing out of the water. Those are called mangrove trees. You'll see these loopy roots. They help to maintain the soil from eroding out into the sea, but that is also a nursery. Where the fresh water from here mixes with the ocean, it creates a different water. That's called brackish water. A lot of crustaceans, a lot of fish, a lot of turtles, and yes, sharks will come into the estuary to birth their young, because the babies cannot tolerate the high saltiness of the ocean. So this is how the story goes. In the late 1300s, early 1400s, very famous explorer came here. His name was Juan Ponce de Leon. Spanish explorer looking for the infamous fountain of youth and definitely gold. We have what runs around the whole peninsula of Florida called the Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream is a natural flow of water that the sail ships needed to get into. They didn't have engines or motors. So there was a lot of piracy going on because of all these ships that used to bring gold and teas and trade. That is where Ponce de Leon stayed. He stayed at the southernmost tip. And one day he needed fresh water for himself and his crew, so they took huge barrels and started walking up one of those rivers. When he was in the river, he saw bull sharks giving live birth. He had never seen sharks in a freshwater river before, so he named it the River of Sharks. It was later shortened to Shark River. They're still out there. If you want to see sharks in a freshwater river, only way to get there, though, is a canoe or kayak, and that's 60 miles southwest of here. You can rent in the south part of the park canoes and kayaks, but just let me tell you, you really need navigational skills or someone with you, because you can get lost in the mangroves out there super easy. There's like 100 islands off the Everglades National Park. That's a kill deer. That's a little ground nesting deer. They make that ruckus and that sound to direct you away from their nest. They have their little eggs on the side of the road. So then we shortened it to Shark Valley, so it could fit on hats and t-shirts. That's how we got our name. So pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting that it stuck from back then. So I'll talk to you a little bit about invasive species. Exotic means it doesn't belong here, but it's not necessarily putting our ecosystem in jeopardy. Invasive means it doesn't belong here, and it is absolutely putting our ecosystem out of balance. So plants, exotic plants, not the biggest threat, because this is a really hard environment for exotic plants to grow in. And also this is, 6 months dry, 6 months wet, and fire. So exotic plants have a rough time thriving in this environment. But we do have an invasive fish. Now, not in this part of the park. We have exotic fish here. We have those little tiny catfish that clean the side of the tanks. They have grown to about 2 feet. Because when people in Miami don't want their aquariums anymore, they dump them in the canals alive. First rain, first hurricane, welcome fish. So, anybody from California here? Okay, so you have a beautiful fish in California called lionfish. And people in Florida got those beautiful lionfish and put them in their tanks, not knowing they're venomous, and then they would eat all their fish. Lionfish are Pacific Ocean fish, and they're gorgeous. Their fins look like yellow flowing mane of a lion. They're venomous. So people that got them in their tanks dumped them out. Now they're in Biscayne National Park eating all of our fish. Now they are invasive. Don't remember what the other predators are. The only predator we have for the lionfish is the moray eel, and we don't have enough of them. So there's spearfishing competitions, there's fishing competitions, but we are not putting a dent in the lionfish because there's nothing here that naturally eats them. So that's a huge problem for Biscayne National Park. Our biggest problem is the snake. So, and when I say a big problem, it's epic. The Burmese python, we knew it was here in the late 70s. Didn't realize it was invasive until the mid-80s. Then it was too late. They had already consumed about 90% of every mammal in Shark Valley. We were asked if we were going to put back the marsh hares or the river otters. We cannot.